All right. Good evening. It's Friday night once again. Welcome to the Man Cave. And let's see if we got brother Jeff hanging out in here with us tonight. Good evening, Jeff.
Hey, John.
And our executive producer, Tanya, is hanging out back there in the background. And we're going to kick off just like we do every Friday night. We're going to have a drink. And if you're having a drink with me, uh, let me know what you're having. Leave me a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Also, hey Randy, good to have you with us. Tonight I'm going to hit this Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select because I'm getting low on that bottle and I want to go ahead and get that one done and get it out of my cabinet. That was a one-off. I probably won't buy that again. I might have enough in there to have another glass later. This is a big bottle. This is a 1 liter bottle. Russ, glad you could make it with us with the red wine, but I didn't quite get that where I wanted it. I'm about a half a finger short in there, Jeff. This bottle got
Dang the bad
stingy
luck.
on me. Can you believe that? So, Tanya, what are you having?
I am having, believe it or not, if I can operate here, ginger
Ginger
ale
ale. All
and
right.
my favorite Carolina Yeti Coaster.
Awesome. Ryan, glad you could be with us tonight. See, we've got a pretty good crowd rolling in here now. So, Andy, yeah, Andy's got a beer. Andy's been putting together his kettle joe today. I saw some pictures of it just a little while ago. He got it assembled and got the gasket material put on. He's ready to fire it up. And Andy, I saw your comment about waiting 24 hours. You don't need to wait 24 hours with that gasket material. Just don't crank it up to 500 or 600 degrees on your first cook, and you'll be good to go. That gasket will settle in there just fine. And it's going to take a couple of cooks before that gasket really settles in good. So give it some time. Brent, glad you could make it with us. Daryl, Fiddler Whiskey in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Awesome. So cheers, everybody. No sound on Facebook. Is anybody that's watching me on Facebook having trouble hearing? I guess if they were, they wouldn't have heard me say that. So, all right, Tanya, we're going to take you
Okay,
back down
we
to
just got a John. We just got a notification that we're having trouble streaming to Facebook.
having trouble streaming to Facebook.
Yep,
Well,
it says, "Is it
that's
possible
welcome to
the
that's
stream has
welcome to
ended?"
Facebook. Uh,
So
well, I'm getting a lot of comments from people on Facebook, so I'm not sure if it's just one person or if it's the whole crew.
well, that was a message from StreamYard. So
Oh, a message from StreamYard.
yeah,
Uh,
if you
man,
look
thank you.
up
I'm working on it. Is it in the comments?
No, look up in the corner where it says edit, just to the right of that, there's Facebook icon and it's in pink.
I don't see that.
If it drops down,
Mine's not in pink.
well, mine was in pink.
It says I'm live. So,
Okay, well, mine says it's trouble streaming to Facebook.
okay. Well, Woodford
Yeah,
Reserve,
Facebook has
Levi's
died.
having Facebook has died.
Yep. I went on there. You're only getting
Now I've
like
got it.
2 minutes.
Uh, oh well. I just got the message. It now is telling me that we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. Says it may be a problem on Facebook's end. So I don't know. I guess we're just going to stream to YouTube tonight then. Uh, I don't know what's going on with that. James, glad you could be with us. Let me see what's going on here. Uh, I do not know. So I don't know what to say about that. I guess we're just gonna have a thin crowd tonight because there's a problem streaming to Facebook.
I'll run out to Facebook and tell people that there's an issue and to try listening in on YouTube.
Well, they'll have a hard time finding it if they don't know where to go already on YouTube to find it, but that'd be fine. So I do not know what's wrong there. Okay, well, Tanya, I'm gonna drop you down in the background for now.
Okay.
I'll try to figure this out later because I don't think the problem's on my end. So, okay, Carla's. See, and I'll have to look and see if I get any more comments from Facebook users and see if it's what's going on there. Yeah. All right. So I don't know what's going on with I don't know what's going on with the YouTube stream, guys, or the Facebook stream. So this is the first time I've ever had an issue, but apparently there's a problem. So anyway, we're not going to let that stop us because this can be rewatched, and I'll figure out what's happened and I'll repost the YouTube stream to Facebook where anybody that wants to watch it can watch it later. That's just going to be about 2/3 of our crowd. Okay. Let's see here. Well, I guess we'll kick off things. Jeff, I noticed you did some cooking this week.
Yep.
And I actually stole some pictures of it here so we could talk about it. Is this your first brisket that you cooked on the bark?
Yep.
How'd it go?
Went good. Held the temperature rock solid. I mean, like I said, that thing's a beast. The bark was good. I think I should have pulled it just a little sooner than I did. I kind of waited until my usual 201 to start doing the probe test on it. And
right.
The point was really good. The end of the flat was a little dry, which, I guess is to be expected. I mean, when you got a big piece of meat, because that point was really thick.
Yeah.
The point on that thing was probably a good 2.5, almost 3 inches thick, John.
How much did that brisket weigh?
20 at the beginning, 15 after I trimmed.
What'd you do with that trimming? Did you save it?
Kept it.
You gonna render it down?
Absolutely.
Let's see here. I got another picture. This is the cross section of that brisket.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the juices on the on the cutting board there, but I say that very tip end of the flat was a little dry.
It looks a little thin compared to some of the other ones I've seen, but it's kind of hard to judge how thin that is. That's still a pretty big piece of flat on a 20-pounder. That's a nice piece of brisket there.
Mm-hmm. I say the point was real good. As a matter of fact, even the flat under the point was real good. It was just like I say, that very right end was just a little dry.
Right. How'd it taste?
Tasted great.
How was the smoke profile from the bark on that brisket?
Excellent. I mean, you take a look at the smoke ring there. It's got probably almost a 1/2-inch smoke ring on there. That's how deep it got. So I put it on at like 5:30 and took it off at I think about 2:30.
You ran at 300 degrees?
Yep.
Okay. What did you season it with?
The Himalayan Sherpa and AP Mojo.
Have you ever seasoned a brisket with just one or the other of those two?
No, I've always layered my my rubs.
Right. Well, the reason I'm asking is because the Himalayan Sherpa is a beautiful salt, pepper, garlic blend on its own. The Man Cave Meals AP Mojo is also a salt, pepper, garlic blend, but it's got some additional things in it that take it outside of the realm of your normal salt, pepper, garlic blends. It's got some of the additional things that are there are some mustard powder. And one of the things that really differentiates AP Mojo from a salt, pepper, garlic blend is Worcestershire powder. Uh, that there's also a very small amount of cayenne pepper in it and a couple other minor things going on there. There's a little, very small amount of MSG in there also. And I take a lot of heat for that, but man, it makes a difference. It's one of the things. If you've ever had Malcolm Reed's, which one is it? It's his steak. It's his steak seasoning, I think, that's got salt, pepper, garlic, and MSG in it. Having tasted his, that's what inspired me to use a little MSG in that. And the reason that Pork Mojo and Beef Mojo have MSG in them is because Pork Mojo and Beef Mojo are based on the AP Mojo. To make Beef Mojo, you take a certain amount of AP Mojo and add some extra things to it. You do the same thing for Pork Mojo. So the amount of MSG that's actually in beef and pork Mojo is so minuscule it might as well not even be there. So, but that brisket, say again.
That brisket came out good. Then with that brisket, I put a cast iron on the Kamado.
Right.
And heated it up nice and blistered some green beans and Brussels sprouts and bacon, and good Lord, that is good.
Yeah.
Keto friendly.
I didn't take that picture. I should have snagged that one as well.
Yeah, that was really good.
But that thing that brisket looks awesome. I haven't done a brisket in a while. The last brisket I did, well, it hadn't been that long ago that I did one. I'll save that for if I end up with the bark, I'll do my next brisket on that.
I got to get the beef short ribs. That's the next thing I need to cook on that. I love beef short ribs. I'll take that over brisket any day.
Thanks, Ryan. I love them, and I'm just fortunate to have those being available through Atlanta Grill Company. That's a nice setup there. I love the AP. The AP Mojo is my go-to all-purpose seasoning here at the Man Cave. Those are my recipes, and that's what I use. I'm cooking a pork butt tonight, and I haven't put it on yet. I've got the classic fired up. It's out there. Coming to temp. I lit it right before we started up here, and when we get done, I'm gonna toss a pork butt on there and let it cook overnight. But one of the things I've found that I like, that if I had this rub series to do over again, I would change the formulation of the Pork Mojo, because I have found that I really like mixing the AP Mojo and the Pork Mojo almost 50-50, and using that combination right there is a great all-purpose rub for pork or beef. It hits the sweet spot just about everywhere. It's got too much sugar in it for chicken and poultry, but for pork and beef, it's a fantastic.
Yeah, I like mixing those two, the AP Mojo with the pork or the beef.
You can do the same sort of thing with Atlanta Grill Company's their Himalayan Sherpa and the Georgia butts and ribs. You can get a similar effect by mixing those up, because the Georgia butts and ribs is a heavy on the brown sugar and lower salt. But I've got a 10.5-pound butt in the refrigerator. I unpackaged that early today, this morning actually, and took it out of the wrapper, and I seasoned it, wrapped it back up in plastic. You guys know I like to do that. I like to pre-season my meat, and I like to let that salt go to work on the beef long before I'm ever going to put it on the grill. And that's what I did. I picked up this pork butt yesterday at Food Lion. My local Food Lion had them for 99 cents a pound yesterday. A nice, good quality Swift pork butts. And I can't. I have a hard time walking by that, even if I don't need one. I have a pork butt in the freezer that I bought last time they were on sale, but I decided to go ahead and get another one. I've
Yeah,
got to get
when they're at that price, you stock up, you know.
right. So I got that cleaned up, and it's on the Swift. I really like those, and I like the ones I'm getting from Sam's Club now, and the ones that I get from Swift. And there's another brand they sell at Food Line. I can't remember what it's called, but it's equivalent to the ones I get at Sam's Club that don't have any kind of injection in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had to trim a fat cap on a pork butt, and I don't know how long. They're all coming where they're trimmed just right for cooking. I don't ever have to trim those down. So
Yeah, Costco has been doing the same thing. They've trimmed a lot more on their pork butts.
yeah. Well, when I was prepping today, I found a monster in a bag of charcoal. This is a 3 pound and 6 ounce piece of lump charcoal that, this is, I think I made a comment on Facebook today when I posted this picture. I said, this is what wet dreams are made of around this community. Everybody's crazy about these big pieces of lump charcoal, and I absolutely hate them.
You and me both. I
Hey
gotta get
Jeff,
out the hatchet and chop it down.
this piece of lump's got one good quality to it. I could build a small wood fire and set that piece of lump on top of it in my Alpha, and I could run at a reasonably low temperature in the Alpha with that thing in there. I could, run anywhere between 300 and 400 degrees with no problem with that piece of lump charcoal for quite some time. So what else we got going on? That thing, that's what I set it on top of the heat deflector, but I couldn't find a real good way to give perspective to the size of that. This I did when I posted this on Facebook today. I didn't tell what kind of charcoal it is, but it is a piece out of a bag of Kamado Joe Big Block, and that bag had another piece in it that was almost this big. It was about probably 3 pounds. I didn't bother to take it out of the bag though, because I didn't put this one back in the bag because I'm going to take my hatchet and break that into about 4 pieces before I do anything else with it. So, I want to talk a little bit about duck. Last week on the live stream, we were talking about things to do for Christmas, and I told you guys I had a duck in the freezer, and or I had it in the refrigerator. Actually, I had thawed it out, and I had intended to cook this duck last week, and things happened and caused me not to get that done. But I had that duck thawed, and I needed to do something with it. So I decided to do something a little off the hook, because I have been threatening and challenging myself for I don't know how long that I'm going to learn how to debone. That I'm going to learn how to debone poultry. And I found a lot of great videos on YouTube on how to do this. And the most entertaining and the easiest looking video I found was this guy called Chef John, and his channel's called Food Wishes. It's a really big YouTube channel. He's got about 4 million followers, and he did a turkey though. He deboned a turkey, and that's the fact that he deboned a turkey, which is a large piece of poultry, made it look easier. It's a lot. I learned that because this duck was less than 5 pounds, so it's actually smaller than some of the chickens I buy, and the smaller piece is a little bit harder to debone. But I set my laptop up here that I live stream with, and I brought that video up, and I worked my way through it, and I managed to get this thing apart. What you're looking at right here, over here on the right side of the screen, that's the carcass. This carcass, if I had had a little bit more experience than this, would have a little less meat left on it than that. but the wing bones and the leg bones are still in this. And I went ahead, I got them out and ended up with this. So that's a deboned carcass that I could stuff and roll if I wanted to, which is my objective. When I do this again, the first time I do this, whenever I get around to doing a video on it, I'll do a chicken and I'll leave the end of the leg bones in there and we'll do a stuffed chicken. But I went a little bit further with this duck. This is the backside of it, because one of the things that you got to learn not to do is, like right up here, I've got a little tear in the skin. You got to avoid that. You got to keep, the whole objective is to not cut through this skin. But I wasn't planning to stuff this duck, so I wasn't real concerned about that. I went ahead and broke it down even further. I took the 2 breasts off and I've got them packaged up. I stuck them back in the freezer because I'm going to do a man cave version of duck l'orange when I get the time to do it. I've been thinking about it. My wife and I went out for dinner. This has been quite a while. It was before the pandemic hit, at one of the nicer places in the town down the road. And I had duck l'orange. They had a special that night, and it had a beautiful orange sauce on it. But the thing that really set that plate off was they had some candied orange peel on the plate. That it was some really fine strands of orange zest that had been candied, but the candying process, they had put some cayenne pepper in that, and man, it was off the hook. Jeff, have you ever had duck l'orange before?
I used to cook it in the restaurant all the time.
So how was it prepared? How did you prepare that? What was the technique?
Well, first of all, you got to render that duck fat down real good, you know, on that breast. So, and you want to make it crispy. So what we used to do is we used to score the skin and put it in a hot pan, you know, skin side down, to get a nice crust on that. And while that's cooking, you'd build your sauce and, you know, then put your sauce over it.
Right. So if I wanted to do this on the Joe or on the PK, I'm probably going to do this cook on the PK Go, and I'm going to use that griddle that I bought, maybe.
That'll work.
Actually, I won't use the griddle because I'm going to need to do, that griddle's not in 2 pieces. That griddle's a single piece for the PK Go. I'm going to do it with an iron pan on one side over direct heat. And I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to score the fat cap on the skin side of this duck. And I'm going to, I probably don't need to put any oil in the pan. Will I get enough rendering, or do I need to oil the pan first?
Maybe very lightly. I mean, you know, we put a little bit in because you're going to get a lot of fat off the duck, but it's just to kind of keep that skin from the initial stick.
But I'm going to want to do that.
And throw a little salt on it, you know, after you score it.
Yeah. Okay, so what if I score it and salt it and let it dry brine for a little while? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, that'll work good.
Okay, I can salt both sides of it then and do that. Put it in a rack in the refrigerator for 8 or 10 hours before I'm ready to do that. So, but I'll sear that skin and I'll get that. That'll be the main project. We'll get that looking like we want it. We'll get a nice color on that, and then I'll move it off to indirect heat and let that finish cooking. And then I can take the pan off, or I can use a different pan on the direct heat side to put my sauce together while that's finishing over indirect heat. But I want to do this candied orange peel thing also. I'm gonna experiment with that before I actually try it. So it's going to be a little while before this video comes together. But these duck breasts. These look fine to me. I think these guys are ready to go.
Yep.
And it's going to be fun. But in the meantime, guys, I'm going to spend some more time trying to learn how to debone chicken. And I tell you this also, whenever I do the video on my stuffed chicken, I am not going to teach you how to debone the chicken in the video. I am going to point you to the videos that I use to learn how to do this, because they're much better than I think I could do with it. I've watched a lot of videos, but like I said, there's 2 or 3 out there that I think are really good. And if you want to get a head start on the game, go look at it now and learn how to do this, because I think it's worthwhile. And for next Thanksgiving, the turkey video that I will do will be a stuffed turkey, and I will make my existing stuffing. I'll make my stuffing that I've made a couple of times in videos already, and stuff the turkey with that, and we'll go from there. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of duck tonight, was what I had done here, and you'll see some more of this. The next thing I did this week was my second round of experiments with pork belly. I have been chasing how to make perfect pork belly for quite a while now. I've been researching it, trying to find out what other people were doing. So when I was at Publix a couple weeks ago, I found a 3-pound slab of pork belly with the skin on, and I cut it in half. This is half of it. The first half of it, I messed it up. I tried a technique that I thought would work well, and it didn't. So it was a learning process. But the technique I did this week was amazing. The results were amazing. I'm going to walk you through what I did here. So I have this little 8x8 Lodge stoneware baking dish that I use for this first part of the process. So I used my Pork Mojo here, just Pork Mojo. I didn't mix anything with it, but on the meat side, I put a nice heavy layer of the Pork Mojo just on the meat side. Then I flip that guy over in the pan where I've got the skin side showing here, and I salted the skin. I used my coarse kosher salt, just put a nice heavy layer of salt on the skin, and then I put this guy in the refrigerator. Ultimately, I would have liked for this to have been overnight, but I didn't decide. I decided to do this one morning when the cats had gotten me up at 5 o'clock to feed them. So this only got 6 or 7 hours in the refrigerator, but I think it was enough. And what I should have done here that I didn't do is I should have scored the skin before I salted it, but I didn't. So after the dry brine, I scored the skin, and I did not score a diamond pattern this time. I scored these lines that are somewhere between 3/8 and a half an inch apart, because I was thinking about what would happen to this when I'm done. You would want to be able to slice this off easily to portion it, and these slices are pretty good portion sizes that you'll see here in a minute. But I scored that, and also you need a really sharp knife. In case I didn't mention it on that duck, I have discovered also that I do not have an appropriate boning knife. I'm going to have to buy a new one. You need a very flexible and a short blade. So I'm going to get a 4-inch or 5-inch boning knife that's got a lot of flex to it before I try this again. But by the same token, it takes a really sharp knife to cut through this this pork skin nicely as well. I actually used my knife that's in the picture there is not a good example of what I need, but I used this guy, this box cutter with a brand new blade in it to score that skin, and that made easy work of it. And I think I'm going to dedicate this knife to that now, maybe, because I've got 2 of those. So that's just a note. So I put it on the smoker, and I ran the smoker at 225, and I put my meat probe in there. So what I wanted to do was slow cook this thing until I got it somewhere up between 195 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit, because I wanted this guy to be buttery tender. So 195 to 200 is where you need to be on pork belly for that to happen. So this is what it looks like when I get up to about 197 there. This is what we look like at this point. So the whole conundrum of having an amazing piece of pork belly or an amazing piece of skin on pork belly is you've got to have that pork belly buttery tender, and you want that skin to be extremely crispy. And it's hard to do the two at the same time. And there's a lot of ideas out there about how to make this work. So I got to thinking about how pork cracklings or pork rinds are made. They're deep fried. That's the way that stuff's crisp and puffed up. They deep fry it. So what I decided to do here was basically deep fry the skin after I had smoked it. So what I did, I got one of my stainless steel skillets out, and I put about, I don't know, a quarter of an inch of avocado oil in the bottom of that pan, and I let that pan get hot. Or I let the pan get hot, then put the oil in, and I put it skin side down in the hot oil for four minutes or so, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. I didn't actually time it because what I was doing was I was picking it up with my tongs and looking at it and wait until it looked like I thought it was good. And I also set my bacon press on it for a little while because that thing had curved up, and I wanted to make sure I was getting contact with all of my pieces of skin on that piece of pork belly during this process. And guys, here's what we ended up with. And let me tell you, it was pretty good. It was I was very happy with this result. I don't know how much better this can get, but I am going to try another thing. Jeff, how does that look to you?
I'm sitting here drooling right now, so it looks pretty darn good.
Now, this was crispy, and I don't know if you can actually tell how crispy that is by looking at it. It's extremely crispy. But what I'm curious about is if I can make it crispier than that. If I can make it this was crispy, but it was also a little on the hard side. So what I'm curious about is if I can improve upon this. And what I'm thinking I want to try next time, I'm gonna do this again before I make a video because I've got to know which way is going to work best. But what I'm thinking on my next attempt on this, Jeff, I am going to dry brine this thing the same way I did for this cook, but I'm going to score the skin first, then I'm going to salt it, but I am going to try to crisp that skin in the skillet with the oil before I go to the smoker with it. Thoughts on that?
I'd agree with that. I think that'll come out better.
Do you think that'll give me because the pork rind, I've made pork rinds, and I've made a video on making pork rinds from pork skins from homemade pork rinds. I made a video on that. I think that's on I think that's on the Atlanta Grill Company channel. I'll have to look that one up. But it's the raw skins, the ones I did, they go through a different process though. We boil them to start with, and then we dry them out in the dehydrator, and they're really dry and hard before they go into the hot oil. So I don't really know what's going to happen. I haven't tried. We're going to try it and see, because after I do that, I'll know which method's best, and then I'm going to make a video on this process because this is amazing. This pork belly, that meat there, the meat and the fat that's there is just absolutely buttery tender. And also, when I get ready to do a video on this, I'm probably going to buy a whole, which is a half pork belly, because for this to be perfect, you need a piece of center cut pork belly. And I think this piece is not as lean as it could have been. Uh, you want plenty of fat in this, but I think this one was far enough off center that the fat content in it was a little higher than it could have been to be a premium piece of pork belly. But I know I can buy a whole. It's going to be 8 or 9 pounds, but I can buy that. Costco can provide me with that, but I have to buy the whole thing to get it. And this is $6 a pound, which is not too bad because that's what I've paid for it before. So what'll happen when I buy a whole pork belly, I'll end up doing some of this with it, and I'll also make some bacon. And I'll also take the skin off a part of it and do some pork belly burn ends. And I'll get 3 videos out of that whole pork belly if I buy it. So, or when I buy it. Thoughts on that?
Sounds like a plan to me. I'm about ready to make some more bacon. It's starting to get cool now, so it's time to break out the cold smoker.
Okay, question. Tell me what cool means when you live in Tampa.
Or when I live in Orlando, you mean?
I mean, in Orlando. I'm sorry.
If we can get the outside temperature in the low 40s, it's cold smoking time.
Man, you guys wear down jackets when it gets that cold, don't you?
No, not me.
Oh,
I'll take
boy.
the coolness any day because I can always put on clothes, but there's only so much I can take off before I get arrested.
Well, like I said, Jeff, I told you yesterday or the day before that I killed Tanya's key lime that you rooted for her, right? I've already told her.
Oh, okay.
I've already made her aware that it's probably dead, and
that's all right. I'll take care of her. I'll get her another couple. I
it's
got
my
that.
fault. But we went for an entire week. We had an unusually cold November. We were down in the mid-20s, probably 10 or 12 nights during the month of November, and we don't see that in November around here. And today we saw 80 degrees outside. We got up to 80
wow,
here.
you were warmer than we were.
Or 79. It was 79 outside here at the man cave today. So the weather's being
here.
Yeah, it's being a little freaky right now. So yeah, here's the final picture. One of my final pictures of the pork belly. I was super stoked with this. Now, I ate 2 slices of this myself, and I had to practice some pretty heavy restraint not to eat any more of that. It was delicious. It was crazy. So I vacuum sealed this, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm probably, it's in my refrigerator. I haven't frozen it yet. I'm probably going to unpackage it, cut that in half, and I'm going to give my mom half of it, and I'm going to keep half of it, and I'm going to see how well that reheats in a sous vide bath, because I'm not sure what's going to happen to that skin on a reheat, because I've never done it before. Do you think that's going to kill it, Jeff?
I'm thinking it might. I'm thinking you're going to lose the crispiness on it when you go to reheat it, because I think as it starts heating up, those fats are going to start coming out some more, and it's going to saturate that crisp.
Okay,
well, maybe. Be wrong.
Okay, then, and that being the case, I've got another idea. I might reheat it in the Anova Precision oven, and that oven, I can run that oven at 160 or 170 degrees with no steam, and I can put that thing on a rack where it won't render anymore, or we'll see. I might try that. I'll find the right way to reheat it. I know everybody doesn't have the Anova Precision oven, but I could do the same sort of thing in my Breville Smart Oven Air over there, but sous vide might not be the right way to reheat that. You're right. So we'll play with that too. Second thing I did, this is today's video. This is the video I published today on Atlanta Grill Company's Facebook page and their YouTube channel. I made pecan pie. This is my first video of the Christmas season. Once again, I've told most of you guys before, I don't eat nuts. And so I can't really judge how good this is. But let me tell you, this recipe, this is the second time I've made this pie, but I made some changes to it this time. This recipe comes from King Arthur, and it's called Lyle's Golden Pecan Pie. My wife pointed me to this recipe. She says, you need to try this, because this, what you see here in this measuring cup right here is called Lyle's Golden Syrup. And what Lyle's Golden Syrup is a pure cane sugar syrup. And it's got a beautiful flavor. If you haven't tasted this stuff, you need to taste it, because it is an amazing sweetener. And if you don't have Lyle's or can't get Lyle's or don't want to use Lyle's, you can substitute light corn syrup in its place. The flavor is going to change up a little bit. But anyway, that recipe is on King Arthur's website. But the first time I made it, I followed their recipe as is. But today, or yesterday, when I made this pie, I decided that we wanted to brighten it up a little bit. So in my pan over here, you see an orange. And what I decided I was going to do was I was going to add about a tablespoon of orange juice to this pie mix. And I was also going to add some orange zest. So I cut this orange in half and I juiced it to get some fresh orange juice out of it. And then I zested about half of that orange and ended up with a fairly compact teaspoon and a half or so of orange zest. And I didn't make photographs of this entire process, but the pecan pie is super easy to mix. You take all these ingredients, you mix them together with a wooden spoon in a mixing bowl, add your pecans, and dump it in a pie shell that you formed. And I use one of my Lodge cast iron pie plates here. I bought a Pillsbury pie crust. I still don't make my own pie crust, so I might try that one day, because they're not hard to do. And I put it on the Kamado Joe at 375. And guys, this is what you end up with. And let's I'll tell you what, let's do right quick here. Let's bring my wife in. Tanya, can you hear me?
I can.
How was the pie?
It was really good. It was so good that I had to have 2 slices.
So,
who twisted your arm?
No one twisted my arm. I just really wanted that pie. And I thought about the pie all day. I tried it yesterday. Well, okay, so the cat's got a piece first. But then, long story. That was an accident. The cat's got a piece first. And so then I got another piece, and it was really good. And I thought about that piece of pie all day long.
So,
it was good.
Tanya, talk to me about the addition of the orange juice and the orange zest compared to what I did last time I made this pie.
Well, the big thing is you don't really taste orange, but you taste a brightness that I think that it's bringing to it. It just tastes really freaking good, let me tell you.
It's kind of, the orange juice is an acidity element that's not there otherwise. This recipe doesn't have an acidity element to it at all. You probably could achieve the same thing with a small additional lemon juice, or even, I don't know how well lime juice would work in something like this, but like Tanya said, the orange flavor doesn't really come through, but the brightness that it brings in contrast to the sweetness, the acidity is kind of a wake-up call for the sweetness. And this pie's got plenty of sweetness. It's got the Lyle's Golden Syrup. It's got sugar as well. So it's crazy.
That's not keto approved, is it, John?
No, sir. This is not keto friendly. But Tanya and I have come to a conclusion about keto. We've come to a couple of conclusions. And let me tell you about this. First of all, if you eat it in the car, it doesn't count. And if nobody sees you eat it, it doesn't count, right, Tanya?
Exactly. Just like I had to stop by the general store today and they had this special spicy pimento cheese potato chips. So those carbs didn't count today.
So you become closet.
I'm doing keto. Tanya's not doing keto, so it's kind of weird here how we're making things work here. But one small slice of that pie would probably be 2 days worth of carbohydrates for me, if not 3, because there's a lot of sugar going on there. So, all right, where am I now? Here's the last picture of what it looked like after I took a slice out of that. It's just crazy. First of all, you let this thing cool completely. You do not try to slice this thing while it's even warm, or it'll fall out. It's got to set up after you cook it. And there's kind of a top-down view. And guys, also for what it's worth, I really love these Lodge cast iron pie pans. Tanya and I went to one of the Lodge outlet stores in Concord, North Carolina, not long ago, and my objective was to buy one of these when I got there, but they had some on the seconds rack. So the seconds were half price. So I ended up buying 4 of them because I want one, and I'm going to give one to my mom. I'm going to give one to my sister. But the problem that this batch has is the seasoning's a little bit messed up on it. So I'm having to pay attention to that as we go. But this thing cooks beautifully. I've cooked several things. I cooked the quiche. If you remember the quiche I did a while back, I cooked it in one of these pans also, and it does beautifully. I cooked that one in the Alpha. But if you have a chance to try the Lodge, this is a new pan from Lodge. Lodge has got this new line. They call it their bakeware line, I believe. And from that bakeware line, I've bought this pan. I've bought a 9x13 baking pan. And I bought the other pan that I bought, I think is a 10x14. And it's like a focaccia style pan. It's a flat pan it's only got about an inch high ledge on it. I did the last focaccia I did in that one also. So it's a really great pan. These new, and also the bread pan, the loaf pan. I think I bought 2 of those. I did. I bought 2 of the loaf pans from this line. And Jeff, back when we were doing COVID bread, I was using that pan to make my homemade white bread. And they all do beautifully. So that's all the pictures I've got for tonight. And guys, I apologize. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happened with the Facebook stream. So, Huzaifa, glad you're with me. No, I don't use any smoke wood. And that's another comment I need to make here. When I'm cooking, first of all, I'm fortunate enough to have more than one Kamado Joe Classic. My Classic 3 is the Kamado that I cook meat on. Everything else I cook in my Classic 2. And because of the way I do that, I don't have grease buildup of any kind in my Classic 2. And that's the grill I use when I want to do something like this, where I want to keep smoke at a minimum. You do not want to add smoke wood to this kind of baking because it will not taste good. It might work if you cooked that pie, wrapped it up, and didn't eat it for 4 or 5 days, and give that smoke a chance to settle in. But otherwise, Tanya's had stuff that I've cooked before that shouldn't have smoke, and it, I guess the best way to describe it, it tastes like you're licking a dirty ashtray. It does not taste good. And you can get around that if you're cooking in a grill that you cook a lot of meat in that's got a lot of grease buildup. The first thing you can do, yes sir, it is a Lodge 9-inch pie pan, but if you do a burn, if it's good to do this stuff after you've done a pizza, because if you've done a pizza, you're going to have burned most of your grease residue out of your grill, and you don't want to add any smoking wood to it. It's not a good idea. There are certain things that smoke does not work with, and this would be one of those. I've cooked pound cakes in the grill. I've done my blueberry pound cake recipe several times in the Kamado. I've done cheesecakes. You've seen all the sweets that I've done, all the baking and pastry sort of stuff I've done, but smoke doesn't work well on that. So that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because you want to avoid that as much as possible on a cook like this. And since Huzaifa's here, I need to tell you guys my steak locker arrived this week. So, and Huzaifa, yes, it would any kind of sweets, baking, breads. Don't add smoking wood. Don't. Well, maybe you should learn this the way I learned it. Try it, and then you'll understand. There's no way to learn like firsthand experience. Jeff will back me up on that. You got to try things sometimes. So, but my steak locker is here. Uh, I'm sitting here looking at it. I've got it right here behind the bar where I'm sitting, and I've got it up and running. Everything is looking good. So all I need now is a piece of meat to put in it. And guys, I've spent a lot of money in November. So I'm probably not gonna buy a piece of meat to go in the steak locker until January. I've got a friend, an old high school friend that I've hooked up with. He is in the meat processing business, not too far from here. He's about 45 minutes away, and I've shown him what I'm looking for. I've shown him the exact cut of whole ribeye that I need to do a proper dry age. This one, if you look at the beef cuts, subprimals have primals, and subprimals are all numbered. And I did some research to find out what the number of the cut is that I need, and I've discussed that with him, and he said I was discussing this with him last week, and at that time he told me it was going to be 3 or 4 weeks, and he'd have one ready. So when he has one ready, I'm going to connect with him, and I'm going to get one, and we're going to do a proper dry age. This is going to be bone on and minimally trimmed. So when we trim it, if you followed me on the Umai dry bag that we did, I'm not going to be trimming meat that's really good edible meat after the dry age. I'm going to have all the good meat left when I trim this guy. So I'm going to buy one of those from him, and I'm going to do a couple other things. Jeff, we talked about, the brisket thing. I'm probably going to try that. Yeah. So I've got a lot of things. I've got a long list of things I want to do with this steak locker, and I'm going to do, I may or may, I can't figure out what I want to do in terms of a video about the steak locker itself. I could do a video showing you the steak locker, but I don't know. It's like a small refrigerator, and the only thing that differentiates this thing from a typical beverage cooler is that you have the ability to control the temperature in this thing anywhere between about 34 degrees Fahrenheit and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. You've got a wider range of temperature control, and you've got humidity control that you need, because dry aging beef, you need a humidity of around 70 to 75%. And for charcuterie, you need a humidity around 50 to 55%. It's a lower humidity process for charcuterie than it is beef. And I've got a whole list of things. My wife and I, we've talked about this. We're going to do after I get some beef dry aging done in the steak locker, we're gonna do some charcuterie. I want to do summer sausage, and I want to do uh, pepperoni. I want to do homemade summer sausage and pepperoni. I want to do also some chorizo, and I don't know if chorizo needs to be done with this method or not. I'm going to have to research that a little bit. And Hank, yeah, I can't wait to tell you guys more about the steak locker. I'm super stoked that this thing's finally here. And okay, Tanya, there's a question here for you.
I don't think I've had any yet.
You have. I've yes, but it's been ribeye, and it's been ribeye, and it's been strips, because the tenderloin, the beef tenderloin, is not really big enough. I haven't dry aged a beef tenderloin yet, because the loss that I'm going to have from trimming it's too expensive. It's too costly to dry age tenderloin. Tenderloin doesn't have a high enough fat content really to do dry aging on.
I guess it's been so long since I've had any, so I'll have to taste it again and try to remember.
Anthony, Tanya has a different taste in beef than most of us do. She specifically likes beef tenderloin, filet mignon, and she likes filet mignon because it has, when it's cooked properly, it's got this buttery, soft texture, but it's got a lower fat content. What Tanya does not like is uh, big slabs of intramuscular fat. We like ribeye, which is full of that. Tanya doesn't like that as much as we do. Tanya likes New York strip. So whenever I get ready I will do a strip loin in here in the steak locker, and I'll bring her into the dry aged beef world with strip loin rather than a ribeye, and we'll see how that goes. I've got to figure out from my high school friend, how to get a strip loin cut that's going to be perfect for dry aging. I'll have to do some research on that as well, but we'll sort that out. But there's just a lot of things I want to do with this steak locker, and I'm really stoked that it's finally here. I was a little bit worried when I got my shipment notification on the steak locker. The email that comes in says number one, before the guy leaves, this comes on an LTL carrier. It comes on a pallet, so it can't come UPS or FedEx. It's coming on a 18-wheeler with a lift gate on the back, and the email said you must take the packaging off and inspect this thing for any visual damage upon arrival. Do not sign for it until you've looked at it. So I did that. I didn't see any visual damage. They also said you must keep all of the packing material and the pallet that comes with it for a year in case you have to send this thing back for warranty problems. So now I've got a huge box stuffed in a place that I don't have room for, and I've got the pallet stuffed away as well, just in case I have a problem with this guy. But at first glance, everything's working properly. I read the email comes on and says you must read the manual before you start, and it's a good thing I did, because there's some peculiar things about this. It's got self-leveling feet on it, and one of the peculiar things about this is they said those front feet, you need to raise the front up where the front end of this thing is a half an inch higher than the back. It needs to be slightly tilted to work at its best efficiency. So had I not read the manual, I wouldn't have known that. And I'm learning. I'm getting into it, but it's online. It's running. The temperature and the humidity look good. And just to make sure that it looked good, I bought a small electronic, a thermometer, hygrometer to stick in there to make sure the numbers are matching up, and they are. Everything looks good. Anthony, yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I could help. I think Anthony was commenting on the cleaning method. There's Kevin. Look, Tanya. Kevin's come to hang out with Jeff. That dog
He's,
is huge now, Jeff.
no, he's not that big. He's only 55 pounds.
Well, that's a big poodle.
Oh, I love Kevin. Kevin, I love you. You're such a handsome boy.
He's
Our
he's
cat
a
must
he's a golden doodle.
a golden doodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a
Well,
perfect little floof.
Well, he's normally a really good guy, but every now and then he can be a really shit.
well, I really hate that I'm having problems streaming on Facebook tonight. I will research this and see if I can find out what happened. That's not normal. And like I said, I will for my people who follow on Facebook. I will post the YouTube stream of this because obviously we're not streaming to Facebook tonight for whatever the reason. I've never had this problem before, so we'll dig into that and see what's going on. I've gotten some PMs on my phone already about it. I haven't. Stephen Hickey's wondering what's going on. I don't think he's caught up with us on Facebook yet. So, but Anthony, yeah, I'm glad you got your grill clean out thing. The Anthony, I think Anthony told me. I posted a little brief video yesterday that I was doing a high temperature burnout on my Classic 3, and I was only running at 600 degrees, and he said, I'm going to follow this, and he posted a link to James Mack's video that James posted recently where he took that grill nuclear, and that's fine. If he called it the magic eraser or something in his video and talked about what it takes to make the dome white again. Yeah, it takes a nuclear temp for that to happen. And I really honestly believe that's incredibly hard on the ceramics. And James, even if you watch James's video, he warns you about that. But yeah,
on the ceramics and the metal.
In the video where he's telling you to do this, or whether he's telling you to do it or not, it's maybe up in the air, but it's I think it was a bad move. I think it was irresponsible, and I think it's a bad process to take your grill that hot for a clean burn. We know for a fact that the exterior ceramics start to break down when you they're not designed to go that hot. So clean your grill by whatever method you want, but make sure your warranty claim is going to be handled when you file it. Make sure you've got proof of purchase these days because Kamado Joe's requiring that now.
And always check your bands after a hot burn.
I agree, but when I want to do mine, I take mine to 600 degrees, and I make sure it's not going to go much over that, and then I just watch it. And when I see the smoke, when I see no smoke coming out of my top vent, I shut it down. And no, my dome is not white on the inside. The firebox will be white because what I do is I put my grill grates up, and then I set my heat deflectors on the grill grates with a gap between them where they can burn off also. But the firebox will be white, but my dome won't be. It doesn't matter if the dome's white. The dome's still going to be black, but what you're going to know is there's going to be no grease residue or anything in that dome that's going to burn off and create an off-putting flavor on anything you cook. You're clean enough at that point. But if you really want to take your grill to 900 or 1,000 degrees, that's your choice. Don't let me stop you, but my recommendation is to never do that. It's not necessary. So these grills are not designed to cook Neapolitan pizzas. Contrary to popular belief, they will do it, and you might pull off a couple of them before something breaks, but it's going to happen. You do it consistently, you're going to fail the grill at one point or another. I've watched it happen too many times. And Jeff, have you broken an outer shell on a grill yet?
Nope.
I haven't either.
I don't take mine over 650 degrees.
I I've had this classic. I've had both of my classics that are here, the Classic 2 and the Classic 3. Well, no, I take that back. My Classic 2 has been to 900 degrees 2 or 3 times. But the Classic 3 hasn't. I've not had the Classic 3 over 700. And I've had it in between 600 and 700 several times running the dojo. And it works. I I don't have a problem at 700, but when you up at 900, I'm not comfortable with that. And the main reason I'm not comfortable with is what you just said. Those bands get loose, and
Yep.
I'm not confident that when I lift that lid that the dome's not going to fall out of the band. And you definitely don't want that happening. There can be
Well,
some
it'll only
sick,
fall out of it once.
yeah. So it's funny every time I see posts in these grilling groups about cracked outer ceramics. Look at the pictures. They're white. You know, they're clean. They've been extremely hot. And the comment that says I was just cooking a pork butt at 225 and this happened, don't hold water at that point. You can't fool.
I call BS.
Yeah, you can't fool everybody. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me, and I apologize for the streaming problem. I don't know what it is, but I'm confident that it's not on my end because we're still streaming to YouTube. And the fact that we're streaming to YouTube and not Facebook indicates that the problem's probably on the Facebook side, and we probably won't have this problem again next week. So, once again, I'm looking for requests. We took requests for Christmas stuff last week, so I'm going to do the duck. Another thing I've got is that Costco rack of pork. I took that rack of pork out of the freezer last night and started thawing that out. So it's next week. I'm probably going to try to get 2 videos done. I won't publish both of them next week, but we're going to get the duck. The duck is the objective for next week's video, and the rack of pork will be the week after that. I really wanted to do this pork Wellington, and I just haven't had time to get the pork Wellington thing done, but I'll get pork Wellington done during the off season where I can post it and then repost it next Christmas because I think pork Wellington would be good. But somebody asked me today, you know, pork, they said that the beef prices are so high right now. I don't think I'm going to be able to afford to do a prime rib this Christmas. And guys, I can feel you on that. The beef prices are high. But if you want to get the best buy that you're going to find on a prime rib roast right now, if you have access to Costco, check them. I don't know what their prices are, but I've seen some $10 a pound prime ribs at Walmart and at Publix the last time I visited both places. So $10 a pound is reasonable. That's what I would expect to pay. I've seen them for less than that, but not in this current economy. You're not going to find them for less than $10 a pound. So if you find a $10 a pound one, get it. Hank, good to have you with us. Thanks. We're getting ready to shut down, so appreciate you coming. But there are a lot of things you can do besides prime rib, and that's one of the things I want to look at. We're going to, like I said, we're going to do the duck, and we're going to do this rack of pork. I'm guessing Costco has this rack of pork again this year. I don't know what it costs, but the one I'm thawing out, I paid $2.99 a pound for it. I doubt it's that cheap this year. Have you seen them yet?
I haven't seen it at my Costco. No, I haven't seen it at my Costco yet. I've been looking for it because I want to do that rack of pork on the park.
It might turn out to be a unicorn then if Costco doesn't have them this year. So let's see here.
So when are you going to do something on your cold smoker, John?
Well, I bought a bunch of cheese, and Tanya and I were talking about that. I've got several pounds of cheese in the refrigerator that I bought to cold smoke. So I'm going to roll that thing out. I should have done it this past week when we were getting down to when I was killing Tanya's key lime would have been one of the good nights to do that.
Yeah.
But right now we're not getting down below 50 or 55 at night. So let me let the weather cycle a little bit, and I'll get that out, and I'll put all this cheese on it, and we'll cold smoke it. And I'll make, I don't know if I'll make video, but I'll make pictures, and I'll talk about it here because I see people constantly working on cold smoking in a Kamado. You can do it, but a Kamado is still not the best vessel for cold smoking because it retains heat too well. If you've got a gas grill, that works better than a Kamado. If you've got a cardboard box, that works better than a Kamado.
Yeah.
And Jeff built me a plywood cold smoking chamber that'll hold way more than I could ever put in it. I've cold smoked a bunch of stuff in it. I've cold smoked cheese in it. I've cold smoked jerky in it. I've cold smoked bacon in it. So, yeah, the thing works great. And it's in my storage building. It's been in my storage building all summer because, well, I can cold smoke year round with the exception of cheese. You need to try to keep cheese from getting to the point where it sweats. If cheese sweats when you're cold smoking, it's not going to be good when you're done. So Scott says he does it in an electric smoker. That might work too, but you got to have airflow, and you need to keep the temperature below 70 to 75 degrees when you're cold smoking cheese. And the colder you can keep it, the better off you are. And Jeff, I might end up having to try what you were talking about and put a half sheet pan with ice on it in there. And but yeah, I've got a bunch of cheese to smoke.
Well, the only reason why I do that is because here in Florida, it just, unfortunately, very few times do we get low enough to really do a good cold smoke.
Yeah.
So my cold smoker hasn't gotten any use here about the last 9 months. We're hoping that it's going to get cold.
Right. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about this duck cook. I haven't fully decided how I'm going to do the duck. I'm not doing Peking duck, so don't look for that. That's a whole nother process, and that's actually a process I could use the steak locker for, because the Peking duck gets pseudo dry aged a bit before it gets cooked. So I'm going to do a little less traditional cook and more of a typical roast on the duck. I found another duck. It's almost thawed out, so I'm probably going to, if things go my way, I'm going to cook the duck on Tuesday next week, and I'll cook the rack of pork on Thursday next week. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Anybody, Jeff, you got anything else?
No, just another good week. Don't know what I'm going to smoke next week on the bark. Going to do some ahi tuna and some shrimp this weekend on the Kamado.
Ahi tuna is on my to-do list for after the first of the year because I like that finely seared where you've got a little bit of sear on the outside and that sucker's still raw in the middle. And
soapstone.
Yeah, I've got to find a non-traditional sauce that I can make that I like to drizzle on that as well. So I'm getting ready to call Chef Eric. He's been ditching me. I've been trying to get a hold of him, so I might call him this week, and I'll probably run that by him and get a good idea from him of what to do on that. So, all right, I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Tanya, you got anything for us?
No. I hope everybody has. Well, let me tell you, like I tell my students, I hope you all have a great weekend and that all your sports teams win, unless you're Duke or playing the Carolina Panthers.
There you go, guys. Okay.
You got
have a good week. Thanks a lot.